Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Helm to Tower podcast. It's right, we're back here on video. Hello, here's
I'm
our
back,
faces.
baby.
So we're in face form. We're in video game Destiny talking form. Once again, I'm here. My name is Mike Burgess, and I'm here with my co-host Auri O'Neill. Hello, Auri.
I'm back, and I'm a girl now.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You'll have a more formal podcast to listen to for folks interested in hearing more about that. On, I guess it will be on Rational Passion's main kind of page, right? If you want to just kind of
At the very least, it'll be on my Twitter.
Right.
Go
Cool.
check that out.
Cool. Yes, that's Hey, I don't think we have to
Questions fielded over there.
questions fielded over there, and I don't want to. We can talk about it a little bit, but at the end of the day, the thing I want to be blunt about is hey, if you're listening to this and it's suddenly you're just what the hell, hey, fuck off. I don't really care. Ari's my friend. I'm happy for her, and we're just gonna. But at the end of the day, we're still just gonna talk about Destiny and have a good time here on the show. So that's all we need. That's all really matters. But yeah, Destiny 2. The video game, despite popular belief, we're kind of playing it, right?
The game is still going.
Yeah, the game is still going. I heard it's make or break once again, or whatever the hell the people are saying. I don't know anymore. I don't care.
The next Destiny 2 killer has arrived.
I don't even know which one that would be at this point.
It was Destiny 2 the whole time.
It was Destiny 2. Yeah. So yeah, surprise. No, but yeah, we had a little time off as Auri was also in the process of moving. So now you're moved into your new place. So now we're gonna hopefully get back-ish on a regular-ish schedule, trying to do some of these. As long as there's interesting things to talk about in Destiny, I guess. But we'll figure it out as we go, as always. But some stuff has happened since we did our last episode in the world of Destiny. I think the biggest thing we can talk about is the season finale. Season of the Deep happened. We got kind of one last kind of big event here with a cutscene that happened, which we can get more into in a second here. There's some other stuff, like a new exotic quest finally came out, or we were able to finish it because you had this whole process of catching exotic fishes over multiple weeks. And now we've gotten all the fishes, and people have figured out what to do with them, and we'll talk about that as well. And then also this week in particular, some Bungie devs went out and did some cool interviews talking about kind of narrative stuff, Lightfall reception, and kind of what to expect from some story stuff. At least kind of what they're kind of going for in the world, the story kind of presentation going forward in seasons and other things like that. I think it's some interesting stuff to talk about there. But yeah, so when was the last time you played Destiny 2, Auri?
Yesterday.
Nice.
So
okay, me too.
I got you beat. I did a GM this week.
Oh wow.
I know. I did what's it? Devil's Lair. So
okay, yeah, that's someone this week, I think.
Yeah, it's funny how that is. I've done that GM once, but the times that I played through that as Nightfall in D1, it just all bleeds together.
Yeah,
to the same
because it's still kind of the same thing, right? Since even that D1 iteration, yeah.
Yeah, the Briggs in the middle part make it different, and it's definitely harder than the hardest Nightfall modifiers in D1, but. And that was when you had the 3 of coins card from Zur that you would, do or whatever. Or I'm thinking of early D2, I guess. Lord have mercy on my brain.
Yeah, it's a haze, right?
Yeah, I don't. D1 Nightfalls is it was harder, I think. That's about all I remember about it. But we did that. I got some buzzards, some adept buzzards that I had missed out on last season, which was nice. I got 2 banger rolls on my one run because there was double rewards, and I was like, "Great! I never have to do this again."
Yeah, don't need any of these anymore. That's I had similar thing happen to me last season when I did that, where I was I got 1 or 2 that were good enough, and I'm just cool, yep.
Yeah, I got perpetual motion rangefinder one of my roles, and I was like, cool, I'm set.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was it. Like, I will be honest, Mike, I like tried to I played a single salvage and did like 3 strikes, and I was exhausted afterwards. I was like,
yeah, I'm feeling that. I had a almost somewhat similar, because I came off of, I think we both finished, or I finished Final Fantasy 16 earlier this week. And was kind of having that, like, all right, well, maybe I can try and, like, ease back into Destiny and see what's going on, and maybe, like, start catching up on little minuscule things here and there. And I felt like I was pretty much just forcing myself to be like, all right, let me do these weekly challenges. Let me just do a couple of these, and then, all right, I guess I'll pull some stupid Season of the Deep armor and put it on while I do these stupid salvages, do this stupid challenge. And it was enough to, like, get it going, and then, like, it was fine. I do want to get to a point where I feel like I'm up to doing GMs again. Hopefully sometime this season, either with, like, our group or people in our raider group or my clan members or whoever wants to do them. I feel that I feel enough pull for that, but, like, other than that, yeah, like the weekly stuff, I'm just like, all right, I just gonna do it to do these challenges, and then, like, I'm just kind of I tune out pretty much as soon as I kind of try and do any more outside of that. So I'm definitely still kind of there as well.
Yeah, I mean, like, Solstice is coming up, and the idea of grinding event challenges sounds miserable to me right now, to be fully honest.
Yeah.
And I might still do it, because that's, like, I like that title, Flamekeeper or whatever.
Yeah.
But, like, boy,
Yeah.
I still have to get this exotic that we're about to talk about too.
Yeah. I'm there too. Like, I actually, that was something I did as well, as I went and got the stupid fish, which luckily did not take as long as I thought it would. Like, I was definitely just sitting there just be like, oh god, it's gonna take forever to get these. But I remembered I actually had already gotten one of them, so it was just like going to each planet to like get the rare one.
I got the one on the EDZ pretty easy, and then I spent a full hour and 20 minutes on Nessus, and I was like, okay, I'm done for today, I think.
Yeah, I didn't have it that bad, but it was like, I would say, like, that was like the grand total to get all the remaining ones I had. So I like lucked out on some of those drops. But I definitely still had moments where I was like, I get to the fishing hole and be like, all right, let's start doing this. And there's people here, that's nice. And then just, like, the thing just evaporates and a fucking public event starts. You're just like, all right, well, there's like 4 other people running over to the public event. At least they're gonna, like, zoom through this, so I'll just stay in here and freaking do this, or most of the time it's either that or you just see everyone leaving to orbit. And it's like, all right, yeah, I don't want to do this public event by myself, so I'm just gonna leave too and come back later. God,
yeah, I did like the 3 rounds of Nessus public event, and I was like, and like fishing hole until it's gone. And once the 3rd fishing hole left, I was like, okay, I am done for today. I'm going to go play a different video game.
Yeah. Like, I guess, like, the nice thing is, I will say, is I've heard that, like, if as long as one person has the fish in a group, the other people, like, don't have to do that part. They just have to be with somebody.
But I want to.
Yeah, like, I ended up doing
stupid.
I ended up doing it as well, just because now, it's like the nice thing of, like, oh, I go into, like, the Helm area that's gonna get deleted in like 7 months, but hey, look, I have all the fish in here. Look how cool my fish tank is. Yeah, they suckered us with that. At least me with that aspect. But
at least you get, like, good rewards for, like, I got like 2 ascendant shards for turning in the exotic fish. It was like, okay,
yeah, you get some exotic stuff. Which is just pretty nice. That's kind of where I'm at too, where it's just like I'm easing back in, and then, like, I still want to, like, try and at least, like, do all the weekly seasonal challenges for the season and get the bright dust, and, like, hopefully I'll be able to at least try and see if I can get other folks to do the GMs for the season. Some of them are definitely some of the harder ones, so I don't know if we'll see if it ends up going, like, bare minimum. If I I think I looked up the rotation. I think the first week in August is when Loaded Question, the adept version of that, comes back. It's the first week of August, so I will at least.
Is that a void rocket?
No, that's the fusion rifle, the arc fusion rifle is loaded question. The rocket is the week after that. Actually, there's a void rocket. It's the Braytech one. Braytech one, yeah.
That's it.
That's like the week after that, I think. But yeah, I definitely feel like I'm trying to take it very slow. With Destiny, where I feel like I'm gonna ease in and try and do a little bit here, maybe each week, but not like go full in each week, and maybe just kind of check a couple challenges off each week, and then kind of move on, and then play something else, or catch up on other stuff in my life.
Yeah. Over the course of the one Grandmaster Nightfall, I completed 5 seasonal challenges.
Excellent. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I've definitely held on to a handful of those challenges just because of that. Because it's like I know I'm going to do GMs hopefully soon here in the next week or two. I'll start trying to do a couple of them, and I'm hoping that same thing happens where I just bang out a bunch of them.
I believe as long as you do one, then I'll get to rank 10. Fine.
Yeah, because that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I wanted to knock it out, and then I'll be able to get my Guardian rank back to where it was, assuming I finish everything else. I assume I will be able to.
Yeah, I think everything else stays pretty much locked in. I have not looked at if rank 11 is. I'm just kind of assuming rank 11 has you have to do the solo dungeon again. And I'm not gonna do it. I can't do that again this season. That's maybe it's a hot take to some some of the hardcore Destiny people out there, but I really think they have to rethink the idea of getting the max to rank has to require soloing dungeons every other season or multiple seasons. I think that's just a higher ask than even doing a master dungeon or a master raid. I feel like that's, at least personally to me, that's just that what does that actually get you at this point? I did it once to just do it, and it felt and that was still not the most fun thing to force myself to do for Spire, but I did it just to at least do it once, and then I don't know. It's hard for me to see myself doing that again. So I'm very curious where I'm sure they got a lot of feedback on where Guardian ranks and commendations and that kind of stuff was because I think it definitely came in pretty lukewarm with Lightfall. That was definitely one of the things people were not the most thrilled about among the other whatever things about Lightfall. I'm definitely curious that how they're thinking of that. I'm assuming that's going to be maybe a bigger talking point come this August showcase potentially.
Yeah,
but we'll see.
I feel like we won't see a rework of it until final shape in any substantial form, but I think we will see it touched up, especially if I imagine the intent could be that your Guardian rank is the level that lets you in certain activities.
Sure.
And maybe that's why they had it set up in a certain way. Obviously, probably everything past 7, you can get into anything.
Yeah.
But I wonder if that was the goal, if they're rethinking that and how they're going to change how that works. But we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely think they're going to take a pass on all of that kind of stuff in general. Especially commendations, because I feel like commendations are still kind of weird because one, they just don't feel great being these weird arbitrary things that extra steps that are in Guardian ranks already, giving these commendations out, and but then at the same time if you remove them entirely from that, then what do they serve other than just kind of saying nice-ish things? It feels like the best, it feels like getting best dressed is cool, but then when I'm doing at this point in the game, it's I'm doing a strike and I get a thoughtful commendation, I'm just okay, yeah, whatever. I was sitting here trying to just do my bounties. I wasn't. I don't really feel like I was actually that thoughtful about helping people out or doing whatever in a strike. You know what I mean? So it's just it's a little weird, but it
might make sense to redo all of the commendations to things like best dress, best shot, or best help, just really general things.
Yeah, or incorporating like things like, like I guess when I think of commendations so much, I think of stuff like Overwatch, because I guess that's like the easiest one comparison game that I played for at least a okay-ish time. I know other games obviously have stuff like this, but like, there's obviously like a stat screen that is involved, and like, you can see like kills and, whatever things like, done that, but like, incorporating some of that into like those little fun kind of stats into commendations, right? So you can, like, when you go into that screen, you can, and maybe you're like going to give somebody a commendation, it'll say like, hey, this person either got the most kills, or this person like revived this many people, or did this, or like did this certain thing during the strike, that like kind of gives them like a little, like, kind of like a little extra, medal or like tag that's like, hey, they were this, that like that would be incentivize them to do that or something. It's maybe like little extra things like that, rather than just, giving a random commendation,
Yeah.
like you kind of said, like, maybe giving commendations for more specific things of like, hey, this person had like a cool moment because they like used their super at this time, and that's what
Play the game.
yeah, extra stuff like that might be a cool way to do it, for sure. But yeah, that's the anyway, for that kind of stuff, we're just gonna have to wait and see, like, what they're gonna do come August. I think like August is gonna shed the light on a lot of things for the future of Destiny and all that. But yeah, we had that exotic quest pop up. Like, I think neither of us have done it yet, just because you can tell kind of the general mood we're in. Where I have the fish, and I have the we both, and I can go dunk it, and I'll do it at some point. But it definitely seems like, from what I'm hearing from people, it seems like you do have to kind of like go in prepared for it, to like have a group that's like ready to go, and like have somebody with divinity, and you have like a lot of like DPS checks and things like that for like this timed like portion of like a deep dive that like opens up when you do it. So
Yeah, it's like a tormentor boss that you have to beat.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, it seems like, though, it has turned like the match made playlist into a nightmare, because everyone's just trying to do it with randoms. So
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, I've avoided that playlist a little bit, because I was like kind of already done with deep. I like a lot of stuff in like the concept of deep dives, but like I just don't see a thing I want to run every week at this point in the game. And it goes into kind of a lot of the seasonal like wariness, right, of like like I felt it more than ever with this season, because of like, us losing the power and having to like not really necessarily need these things to like bump up to like do higher stuff, where like some of this stuff really just kind of feels kind of throwaway. Like, it feels naturally designed to like have a certain lifespan, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
like I feel like that's been always a thing kind of in some seasonal activities. And I think, just by the nature of them being like more tied to like leveling up and powering up and stuff, they like felt like a little bit more naturally, like there was a little bit like that more natural progression of like, all right, I'm just doing this over the season because I need to get to this level to do GMs or do like a rate, like a higher end raid or whatever. But now it's not a thing. It's like, now it's just like, all right, well, now, yeah, I'm just kind of don't need to do this, because I've done it. Like, I've ran a bunch of salvages, and I got all I need out of this. What do I do this for now? So it's just like, you just kind of lose that, right? So
Yeah, I mean, like, that's especially where Strikes and Gambit and Crucible are at with me. Like,
yeah,
there's nothing I'm chasing. There's nothing I need. I'm just doing it to raise the ranks, and when you're doing it that way, it just feels like it's the slowest possible thing ever.
yeah,
and I've done all of them, dozens of times.
yeah. Then the sort of literal years of season over season. Yeah. Just feels like a lot. But one nice thing that we did get, we got the season finale happened a week or two ago,
which was great.
We basically got kind of the end cap here, where we kind of had this little final mission to, like, Asa gets attacked by Zivaras forces, or of course we're about to help her open up a portal, or what, she's going to show us how we get into the Traveler's portal or whatever, and give us that information. We start that stuff, she gets attacked, and then you do this little extra kind of go into this little extra side area in a deep dive area, and do this fight. You save her, and then we get back, and then we get this scene of Sloane talking to us through Asa again, and she uses one more message. That message is that the Witch Queen must rise. She's coming back.
She's coming back.
Savathun is coming back, so that definitely seems like it is the kind of the tee up for what we're probably going to get into next season, which is either that was cool. Like I feel like they've never done that explicitly before. I feel like the only other time they've done it that explicitly was for Haunted, when you remember at the end of, or was this at the, I don't think this was actually, never mind that, I'm thinking of the other way, where the Risen ended and our Haunted ended, and we got like a thing from Callus talking about joining the Witness or whatever. For some reason I thought that was that, but that didn't really happen.
Seraph and Lost, I think, were the biggest tee-ups.
Yeah, to go into expansions specifically.
Yes,
for sure.
And this is cool because, like, Lord knows Destiny needed a shot in the arm, and Savathun is always happy to provide. Yeah,
always happy to provide. We'll get into it in some of these interviews. They've like kind of set it up interesting, where they kind of talked about like setting the expectation of like, it seems like the Savathun might not necessarily be like still a central person in a season, but she might be more a part of the ensemble, which is kind of what they've gone for a lot of these more recent seasons, where it might not necessarily be like all centered around her for the whole season. It might be like, her interacting with other characters and like other things like that, which I think still be very interesting. And,
that's
and
better,
cool.
I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
Than her getting her own season, because we already had that. We had Season of Lost.
Yeah, and then Witch Queen, which was like kind of all of her story, and like I'm kind of hoping this season starts like, the one thing I hope from this next coming season is like it is not like a build up over weeks to get to Savathun, right? I hope it's like week one we find Amaru. We make the deal, resurrect her, and then she leads us on to some, and like this thing when we're doing something for her over the course of the season to like figure out, or like we're helping her, like Xivu Wrath became pretty prominent this season. Maybe we're helping her like get like mend the ties between Xivu somehow, or like open some way to her and Savathun to talk and figure it out, and then like doing that stuff. Like I just hope it's not just like we're trying to spark a deal with Amaru to resurrect Savathun, and then that's like 6 weeks,
3 weeks later.
Yeah, and then like or that's like the whole season is just us trying to get to that, and then the end of the season is us resurrecting Savathun or something like that. I'm hoping it's not that, but we'll have to see.
If it is that, I hope it's at the very least more interesting than that sounds.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I hope they can make that more interesting. But like, I don't know. I'm not in the the hopeful mindset as much these days with kind of some of the stuff they've been trying to do.
Yeah, I would say I'm prepared for the worst, but hoping for the best type deal.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's exactly where I'm at too, where it's like I'm hoping for that shot in the arm moment, like you said, like the kind of shot in the arm moment for this game again, to be like, okay, we're either this season's gonna kick off and it's gonna be ramping up to this expansion again, and we're gonna have a lot of pivotal moments that are building to this, on top of like obviously we're gonna get Final Shape revealed and like hear about a bunch of other things coming to the game that like hopefully people really want to see, and what this game is, start finally talking about like what is this game after Final Shape, that I really would like to know about, and them to start unraveling more details about and giving us more details about. So
yeah, it's like on paper it should be easy peasy. We come out of that showcase and we're just so excited to update and play Destiny.
Mm-hmm.
That is like all I want, and that's what the showcases have done a good job of, because like you're getting the preview of the expansion, but then they're also saying like, and the new season that you're going to play today is like this, and here's the stuff.
Yeah, here's this. Here's like the new raid or new bits and bobs.
some kind of reprised raid. We've got the season and whatever activities and stuff that come with it, new weapons and whatnot.
Right.
So it should be, fingers crossed, like an easy tee up, but it's been a struggle.
Yeah. There's still just a lot of unknowns right now, and
the grind has been more real this year. I think it just is exacerbated by the fact that there are just so many good video games right now.
Yeah, that's definitely a factor too. Of like, I think we talked about it a little bit last episode. Of just like, it's hard to be super stoked about like Destiny when it's like a game I've been playing for years and it's still kind of the same thing, and like it's generally a good thing most of the time, for the fact that I put thousands of hours into it. But then you compare it to like a new mainline Zelda game comes out, a new mainline Final Fantasy game comes out, and it's like these don't come around a lot. So like it's easy to be like drawn away to these bigger things right now than just this same game I've been playing that's like not in the best spot it's been in recent like months and years. So it's just easier to just kind of be like, yeah, I'm gonna go play Final Fantasy 16. Hell yeah, this is awesome. And I'll come back to this later because they'll probably figure it out. They know what they're doing, but they gotta work there. It takes time.
I'm just saying, if they let my guardian kiss somebody, maybe I'd like Destiny more. If they just let me smooch.
Let him kiss already. Come on.
Show more Saint and Osiris smooching next season. It's just them kissing in front of Savathun.
Yeah. She'd be so shocked.
I was trying to ruin your relationship this whole time. That was my secret goal.
Yeah. To the deception of Savathun. But yeah, we'll just, I think it is regardless of, we know where, I think everybody knows at this point where Destiny is kind of at the moment. If you're playing a lot, so I think it is really just kind of, we're just kind of biding our time to that showcase. And I think even they realized it when like they literally like teased, like they put like a little like art up of it, like here it is, this August 22nd, 9 come in the morning, come on guys, here it is. Like even they're already like, yeah, let's we want to talk about stuff and kind of maybe get some people excited again and get the conversation around, oh god, their game is tying. When in reality it's fine, but like
it's just fine. It's just it's been 6 years. We're tired.
It's been a lot. Yeah, it's been a lot, and they need to they just need to work on stuff.
Do you think Destiny could survive another 6-month long season?
Oh man, that's.
I still think that is a strong possibility.
I think it's definitely possible. I mean, personally, for me, I think I think they're going to try and go all in and get Light and Final Shape out quick, in kind of in that same capacity that the Final Shape in, just so they can kind of hit that point and have it done, and that way they can then maybe take longer stretches of time to get on to the next thing. That's kind of where I'm thinking it's going to be, just because like there's definitely a lot of community feelings and like they're setting this up to be this moment, and I think that's pretty fair because it's supposed to be the conclusion of this massive saga they've been on for so long. But also like they clearly are talking about they talked about it in these kind of interviews they have of like we're gonna start learning things in these next 2 seasons that are upcoming that are also gonna like lay potential threads for things post Final Shape. Okay. And that's definitely possibilities for some things we'll learn here, and obviously Final Shape will come out and there will probably still be lingering things that we'll have to figure out and go on, but it's like clearly like the big I think that still needs to come off with like a lot of big payoffs to like things people have been waiting for years and years, and seeing where this goes.
And with just like knowing that Cade is going to be part of that story, I feel like the payoffs are going to be more like the emotional payoffs.
Yeah,
obviously.
Hopefully, we
talked about it last episode of like the Traveler's origins. I think are going to be revealed, and kind of where the whole story started, and that's what I expected. Like if you asked me when Beyond Light came out, like what's the final expansion going to be about, I'd be like, it's about the Traveler, and probably the Veil to a greater extent as well. But but I think focusing on like the characters that they've built, like these really great stories about, like Osiris, Ikora, Zavala, in whatever capacity that his story can conclude. I think, and Cade, now we know, like wrapping up the Vanguard story and like the kind of characters surrounding like Anna Bray and stuff like that, and maybe Saint and whatnot, I think would be the best way to go about it.
Yeah, I agree, and I would like, I think just like having that end a little bit, or just like feel like it's been kind of like they've kind of ended it so that way they can like maybe like we can leave our solar system behind and go do completely other things and completely other different spaces of universe.
Like Ikora hangs up
would be cool to me.
Ikora hangs up her robes and goes and hangs out on the moon or something, or explores the outer reaches of space, have some like endings for these characters where like maybe we just never see them again, and that's fine.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, like I wanted to leave some of it because I think some prediction stuff on there for when like we get closer to that showcase.
For sure.
But I think one, I'll still throw out one crazy idea here just to throw it out there because I think it'd be fun. What I would love, in a big twist would be, and maybe I think this would maybe some people would not love it, but what I would love is we come out of the final shape. We basically heal the Traveler, like the portal of it dissipates, and it just goes back to being the Traveler or whatever, and then it usually has its like waking up moment, and it just goes, oh, actually I was trying to leave, peace, and just like flies off, and then everyone's just like, oh shit, like we tried to save this thing and it just fucking leaves us, and then we just like, then we go follow it, and essentially you're like following the Traveler to the places it's going. And trying to track it down, and then like the next expansion is like us going to some super far off alien world and meeting a new race of aliens that the Traveler has like met with that is now there, and all of these things are, and it's doing all these Traveler things, and we're just like showing up being like, hey, well, this thing kind of fucked us over, like I know we should be doing this, and they're like, no, this is our god now, and then it starts some new conflict with some new alien race that now has like our powers too, or something like that. That would be cool. I don't know if like that would give the opportunity to I don't know if that we would learn about the origins of the Traveler in that regard. Then if they continue to have the Traveler be a prominent thing in the universe, but I think maybe it like going around to different stuff could like still give that opportunity to like learn more from it. But I don't know. I
like the idea of the Traveler leaving, but not like us angrily shaking our fists at it and chasing it, but like being okay with it, like an actual
being like, all right,
clean break, like it, it's safe now, so it can go do whatever the Traveler wants to do.
Yeah, and yeah, it's definitely like I don't think it would, it doesn't have to be necessarily a chase after it to in an anger sense, just to like chase it and like be aware of what it's doing or where it's going, and like see what it does, and like being there when it makes its moves, because we don't know if what kind of impact that can have on the universe is doing more crazy Traveler things. Another thing we'll get into against one of these interviews, which I think we can just get into. I think we just
we can get into them now.
Get into them now because like there's not too much else to talk about. There is like they did kind of outline a little bit of a mid-season patch coming. Most of it was pretty minor stuff that they're doing compared to the last mid-season patch we had, which is pretty big. They kind of outlined some things, and we're basically like, there's not too much this time because we're doing some massive changes in season 22. So next season, they talked about that's when all the crazy zoom changes are happening, and they're like reworking sword guarding and all kinds of bigger things. They're adjusting across the board on weapons and stuff for next season, where this is more of just like, hey, somebody really wants Graviton Lance to be meta if you haven't seen yet, because they are like increasing its damage even more by like a significant amount.
67% in PvE, right? Like
they basically they said they wanted to match it to the double fire burst on what is it, the revision 0. So they want it to be like on par with like that secondary burp fire that gun has. I think that's what they said in the blog. It's like, okay, sure, yeah. I already started to like I already liked Graviton Lance, and now it's like gonna be even more insane. So sure, yeah, why not? Fuck it, let's do that. Let's use that gun and fuck some shit up.
Yeah.
Other things were kind of like pretty minimal. I feel like a lot of it was definitely PvP centered about like, hey, we're gonna rein back this weapon and like, you know, buff some lower performing stuff. Like I think they said like lightweight bows are getting some like improvements, and then you know, other stuff like that. I think the other thing they called out for not this season, but I think season 22 is they're going to be doing a lot of significant PvE centered buffs for hand cannons, which is nice because I think they definitely were like weapons that needed that a lot. Like they're like going to be doing like an across the board reload speed increase and some damage increases and stuff. So
yeah,
definitely
minor and major damage increases.
Yeah. So those were definitely, I think that was definitely a good one to pick out of those. That'll be interesting to hear. They said not too many other stuff besides that though. Like I think they talked about like, hey, what about some like more exotic changes and some other things like that. And they said like, I don't know if they in that blog they were like, I think they were saying that's gonna be more like the season after, like season 23, right? Or did they say it was?
They said tuning a handful of exotics, including a balanced pass for the Monarch and some big buffs to Touch of Malice.
Oh, so that is for next season. Okay.
That's next season, and then the exotic glaives are season 23,
right?
And some other stuff. It looks like
Glaive Gang is getting a glow up in season 23. We're getting it, I believe. But yeah, that's stuff that's like coming in the next couple of seasons. So we'll have to wait and see on that stuff. But yeah, this week we had some Bungie devs. They did like a kind of roundtable kind of interview press kind of interviews and stuff like that with a bunch of different media outlets, talking to them about, you know, Lightfall, kind of having a little bit, it seemed like kind of like a general like post-mortem of like stuff about Lightfall, its kind of general reception, also kind of talking about Season of the Deep specifically and how they kind of did story stuff. And, you know, there's a lot of interesting stuff. There's a whole bunch of different places that did this. We're going to mainly be focusing on a couple of them here, and that's the Games Radar article, a press start article we have, and also then Shack News we have. So I can start here with this. We can just start with the Games Radar article from Austin Wood over there. Basically, he kind of outlined it as like, you know, hey, Bungie is kind of responding to the criticism for Lightfalls, and like his kind of headliner is here. We aren't done giving answers is kind of their response, and that's kind of a lot of what they kind of give answer-wise here. So I can kind of, let me scroll through here and get to this. So basically, kind of, you know, the overall premise was like, hey, this kind of reception was kind of to Lightfall and kind of not giving a lot of answers in the expansion. You know, what do you kind of say to that? It was kind of his question to them, and a lot of things that came out of that were basically like, hey, you know, we were definitely experimenting a little bit this time around, is kind of what some of the wording they were using, where basically we wanted to, you know, have Lightfall happen, and then there would be some stuff answered, but mostly, you know, it would be more of like a fallout, and, you know, answers would then be to like a lot of these like lingering things that we learned about in Lightfall would then be kind of piecemealed out through seasons post Lightfall. And that's what we've kind of gotten right so far, as we've had the Veil Containment mission, which has given us stuff, and then obviously randomly, like week 5 of the season, we just got one of the biggest cutscenes in like Destiny kind of revelations and reveals and stuff. That was built up to. So that kind of happened. Let me find the specific kind of quotes they have. So let's see. Here we go. Right here it says, in a recent roundtable interview, Bungie leads addressed criticism of Lightfall's story and explained the expansion was partly a narrative experiment meant to set up more engaging seasons for the current year. It used to be where you would kind of nod to what was going to happen in the next season, and then you jump into it, and it would be a whole sort of new story with a chain link between the previous one and this one. Begins senior narrative designer Nico Stevens. Now I would say we're at a point where the events of season 21 lead directly into the events of 22. We're building the path to the final shape, right? Senior design lead Tom Farnsworth cuts in. This is a 10-year saga, and at this point, everything is pointing towards its conclusion and final shape. These are some of the most serialized and interconnected seasons we've ever done, senior narrative designer Robert Brooks adds. Just narratively, I think there's more swings toward the fences in that regard. The interconnection between annual releases and seasons is kind of a chain link. And this year is different in that. Normally, we ramp up into an expansion, and then we start the new stuff with the new seasons that come after it. With this one, Defiance and Deep are kind of like a fallout from Lightfall. There's a lot of narrative threads that are left very intentionally unresolved to dig into and expand upon and feel the impact of. Brooks continues, and then from 22 and 23 onwards, it's the ramp up to the lead and dive into the final shape. It's a very different shape than what we're used to. Some of the narrative arcs might be done in a different way, and that's very intentional. Brooks also clarified that since the Season of Deep was in production before Lightfall was even released, and because Destiny 2 kind of developed well in advance, writing something as a reaction is just physically not possible. My read is that Bungie undoubtedly aware of feedback regarding Lightfall's story and may act on it in some way, but the writers are ultimately sticking to the plan that was laid out for Year 6. For the most part, the arcs were there and have been there, and the plan was basically in shape as we make it, Brooks affirms. It was the idea that seasons would be able to take the things that were there, the threads that were set up, and kind of follow them through to their natural course. Brooks continues, the Veil can team as a key foreshadowing reservoir which continues the examination of the cosmic thingamajig called the Veil, and quietly hints at a lot of stuff to come for seasons and expansions. He says this trail of breadcrumbs is a way we're experimenting with the new narrative delivery systems to tell different kinds of stories and shake things up a little bit from what people have been expecting. Alright, so I'll leave it there, but they'll get into more of this, but yeah, like I said, it was kind of an experiment to kind of have like Lightfall happen, and then like the events of that expansion rather like affect the seasons themselves, and kind of continue to kind of sprinkle out the main story, rather than, you know, like they said in the past where you had the Witch Queen happened and was kind of its own selected kind of story, and then Risen was like loosely based on that, but it was kind of its own story to an extent. And then by the time we got to Haunted, it was already like building up to like wherever we're going after that, rather than them continuing kind of telling us stuff from Lightfall. So,
yeah, and Haunted and Plunder set up basically the two facets of Lightfall, right? Like the raid and the campaign.
Right.
But they were separate. They felt more disparate. My read on this is just that like they had all the pieces going like with the Lightfall year, and maybe they split it up, and maybe that split is I think what's causing that friction with the narrative for us, right? Like the feeling that the Witness cutscene should have been in Lightfall. It's like right because they knew when Lightfall was done where that would be. But it wasn't where we wanted it to be necessarily.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I think that definitely it just comes down to, you know, I don't dislike the idea of them like trying to tell a story over a longer stretch of time. Like obviously they already do that to some extent with like kind of these overarching things and building up over seasons these main story beats. But I just think the execution of it was not done well. And again, like they say in here, it like this is kind of them experimenting and trying stuff. And, you know, I think it's totally okay for them to do that. I guess that was not, maybe they could have been a little bit more upfront about them being like, hey, we're going to try some weird stuff and different things with this, and maybe going on, and like, maybe they could have set the expectations a little bit better. But I know that's like also tough because they have to, at the end of the day, they're a business and they're going to try and sell the expansion, and want people to be excited for it and not be wary of it. So,
like, to put my critic hat on, like, if you think about how the Savathun memories that we got were part of Witch Queen, I feel like Veil Containment is kind of like a different approach, similar but different approach to that idea. But that came in the season after Witch Queen or Lightfall.
Right.
So I think that, again, just goes, while it might have been part of the plan, it goes to this means of hurting Lightfall because it wasn't there when Lightfall needed it,
Yeah, for sure.
And they really are like similar thing. I think Veil Containment is more simple. You just load in and hold square and you get some interesting lore bits versus like Savathun, you walk through a room and then hold square and then you get some more interesting lore bits. But I do think they're like comparable in how interesting they are.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, like the Veil stuff, I think scratches more of like the weirdos like me that are reading the lore books, which we shouldn't be weirdos, just so everyone knows out there. You're beautiful. And everyone should read this season's lore book. It is it's very good and almost essential. Of all of the ones, just listen to me on this. But yeah, I think the Tutu and a lie, just like it felt the vibe of Witch Queen. It filled it felt like such a natural progression for that character to like tease us with information, and all of those teases were teases to the seasons and the next expansion, and they were filling that hole, but they felt like they were they meshed cohesively with Witch Queen, where Veil Containment feels there's more friction there. It doesn't necessarily mesh.
It doesn't mesh as well because I think again it can be in some ways as simple as like it did not release alongside it, or like a week or two later and then start building off that stuff. It released 3 months later in Season of the Deep, and now like there's still, I think, people who like don't even realize that was in there, and that's supposed to also be a part of like that. They said that's going to be like a thing you can access still beyond when all the seasonal content gets wiped with Final Shape. Like I guess they'll just have that as a thing you can select from Neomuna. And I feel like in that case that it might feel a bit better, because then like if you're like a newer player coming in and then doing Lightfall, then you can like
you'll get them all at once.
You'll get it all together, and you'll even get that cutscene that we've also now seen with the veil stuff. So like I feel like I think on that other end it'll feel like way more like a better full package on top of like another thing we'll get to here is like they've explicitly said that Veil Containment is not necessarily done after this season either. They will continue apparently to tell more stories through that in the next 2 seasons, and some of that stuff will also not only be maybe tied to like finishing up whatever's left from like answers or answering things from Lightfall, but rather starting to pose questions for things coming in Final Shape and beyond Final Shape.
That makes sense. I could see like a potential post Final Shape arc being all about the Veil as well, like switch from the Traveler to the Veil, and
so that this so I'll grab this one quick last one quick more quote from this Games Radar article. Is this is from it just says Stevens ads. I'm not sure if that's, I think it's Nico Stevens. Is that who that was, or the dev who says that's in here? Let's make sure I got the names right. But the quote is, we aren't done giving answers and reveals in the seasonal content leading up to the Final Shape either. There are definitely more things that are going to be touched upon that have come out of Lightfall, and there are more things that have come out of the Veil Containment activity. Those answers are coming. They're in there, and like Robert was saying, it's kind of a structure of the down ramp and then on to the ramp into Final Shape. So basically he was saying like, hey, this, Veil Containment is going to have more answers on top of like the seasons themselves. Will also maybe have answers like that. Like, I think the other one of the senior guys, Tom Farnsworth, was also saying like Risen or Defiance and Deep were kind of the aftermath of Lightfall, but now the next 2 seasons will probably be more directly building up to Final Shape, which makes sense because we know next more than likely next season is us resurrecting Savathun to learn how to get inside the Traveler, and then the season after that will probably be like us doing that particular, or at least I'm just assuming here, theorizing that next season is like us figuring out how to get into the Traveler.
It's actually just talking to Maru for
Talking
4
to
weeks.
him 4 weeks. Yep. We gotta build the veil containment opener or whatever it is.
It's just Finch and Amaru talking back and forth over the radio for 4 weeks. Isn't that what everybody wanted?
Yeah, everybody wanted. That's what we wanted. So I'll grab a couple more quotes here from this. I'm going to move on to the press start article, which is just like ultimately kind of similar. Like, they talk about a lot of the similar things about like the veil and containment stuff, and things kind of were touched on in that, because I think a lot of these press guys were at the same thing, would be my guess.
Yeah,
but maybe it was.
I think so.
But here's some more quotes from Brooks here. Robert Brooks from the dev. It says, let's see. There's so many curtains to drop, and I should say veils to part. It feels great to explore and reveal some of the story people have been chomping at the bit for. We'd always planned that Lightfall would lead into a period of answers, but not necessarily answering them as it happened. The Veil Containment quest that's available now has content that runs for the entirety of Season of the Deep's calendar. So that means, we're going to get more things every week now. So that's like a whole another month of, or more of those. It's good to know.
Yeah.
There'll also be entries at the start of the next 2 seasons. I think those are going to be revelatory, not just for the Witness, the Traveler, and the Black Fleet, but also some of the stories that'll be coming up after the final shape. It's awesome to be able to get that out there and to see how players react. It's really rewarding. So there you go. So that was his thing for press start. It's like,
so maybe just 2 veil containment things, 1 for each season.
Yeah. That makes sense. Let's see. Robert was asked to expand the idea of seasons being a bridge between Lightfall and the final shape. So here he says, in a lot of our previous releases, the season ramp up to a major expansion was kind of like the end of that story. The next set of seasons starts a new one. We saw that with Beyond Light and Witch Queen. Lightfall's a bit different experience, and then it's just another ramp up. It's a bridge. There's the fallout, the deconstruction of events that happened, and the way characters react to it. Each season will hand off the next one more immediately than before. We want it to be the same when we hand off the final shape into what comes next. So there you go. It feels like, the Lightfall was the experiment to like see how they can start telling stories, start having an expansion be a moment, and then have like seasons progressively build from those events, rather than it being like rather it only ever being like seasons lead up to this expansion moment. So that's interesting. I'm glad they tried it. Definitely obviously was not perfect from what we've seen with Lightfall. But I'm hoping that maybe they got a lot of growing pains were learned, and now as we get into these future expansions and how they're going to do stuff beyond final shape, I hope this has given them the kind of way forward to do this stuff in a better, more potentially interesting way, or exciting way, or cool way, and that's cool to hear, because that's like another reassuring thing to hear, right? Because of like, we still have no idea what shape or form Destiny is going to be once we get past final shape. So this idea of them maybe thinking about it from even a larger shift in how Destiny is, rather than it being like this, we're always going to have seasons that are going to be ramping up to this one big moment in an expansion, and then it's going to be that then we kind of like sort of quote unquote reset to like build that up again to another one. And right now maybe they can think about it of like, hey, we can have a big moment maybe in an expansion, and then we can have like aftermath go from these moments that like kind of center us into different directions and do different things, or have other moments, and like have it be like a different ebb and flow for like how they tell stories and stuff over the year of Destiny. Like, I'm totally for that idea. it's gonna be just like a very interesting time once we know what Final Shape is going to look like and how they're going to present Destiny as a video game post that. Right.
Start getting Fortnite chapters in Destiny.
Here we go. I'm in.
Destiny post Final Shape Chapter 4, Episode 3. I don't know how Fortnite does there.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much close there.
Yeah, I feel like I was in the ballpark.
So yeah, so that's like definitely like that definitely was like definitely piqued my interest hearing that quote of like how they're thinking about approaching Destiny story stuff. Beyond that, the other thing here again was I think as I mentioned a little bit was, the kind of the return of the Witch Queen is he has in his article here. It says Season Delete delivered what might be its biggest surprise at the conclusion of its story, the discovery that our only hope for find the witness lies with Savathun. While many players expected the return of the Witch Queen, it remains to be seen how much of an impact she'll have on the ongoing narrative. When asked about her role in coming events, senior narrative designer Steven explained her place in the greater story. She will be a part of the story moving forward, but Savathun's role won't be as prevalent as it was in The Witch Queen. That expansion and the seasonal events leading up to it were her story, whereas here, she's a piece of the larger narrative. It doesn't revolve around her. Roberts doubled down on this, expressing that seasonal narratives have characters that fit better into their themes and settings than others. We're an ensemble story now with quite a large cast. When we craft narratives, we look for the best fit for that beat. What characters do we want to have involved in this, and does it make sense? That's what we're going to do with Savathun going forward. It's what stories make the most sense for her to be in. It'll fluctuate depending on what we're doing, but there's definitely more to tell with Savathun. So that's cool. So going with the good beats of what they've been doing with a lot of the storytelling. Like it is like an ensemble cast. Like that's definitely been barring that Deep was not maybe my most favorite season, or like was I would say personally like slightly like not a bad season, but I'd still consider kind of disappointing. But like the better parts of it for me were definitely still seeing having this. We had this moment, a really cool moment with this finale where we see the cutscene and then we go back to the Helm, right, and then we had this whole scene where it's like Zavala, Saint 14, I think, and Saladin like reacting to us learning that we have to go resurrect Savathun, and Saladin teleports in and he's like, "You're not expecting this," and starts yelling, getting mad, and then Zavala's having to kind of center figure it out, and then of course Saint 14's really mad because obviously they fixed that on Cyrus, and he said Cyrus will have words for you too and stuff. So that was a cool moment to have them they're talking about that more directly in those final moments there, to give that an extra extra impact. I feel like having them kind of react to it.
Those have been the best moments of the season, just in general. The Drifter talking to Sloane and Zavala over the radio, and just Sloane kind of talking through stuff and what she's been through and all that. So having that big reaction, because it's a big deal, we don't turn to this option unless we already know that we're desperate, and it felt like that. It felt important, and I like that a lot as well. If we get more of that stuff, but also Savathun happens to be one of those characters right in front of us talking to other people, that sounds awesome.
Think of the wild one day room where we have Savathun, Kydal, and Mithrax all in a room together.
I know, that'd be awesome.
That'd be pretty cool. Or having even just Kydal and Savathun having it back and forth,
just interacting at all
would be pretty cool.
And Osiris in the same room, right? This person we've seen as Savathun and now has finally come back to himself. It's there's such good drama potential, and I love that. And not even talking about Savathun and Xivu interacting over the comms for the first time, which is definitely going to happen. So, Savathun makes everything better, and so does Deborah Wilson. So I'm excited to have her voice.
Have her have more lines with her. Yeah, I'm very curious for that stuff for sure, and what role she'll have in these remaining seasons, and if she does stick around beyond beyond this and is like, a part of some weird storyline
Yeah, like
post Final Shape. I don't know.
Seasonal cutscene wise, like in-game seasonal stuff, there's been very good stuff this season in spite of everything else. But like the peak for me is probably always going to be talking to Savathun in the Crystal throughout Season of the Lost.
Yeah.
And her just being like the most uppity, like I know more than you, like absolute asshole.
Corrupting, like seeing her corrupt like Crow in real time, just seeing like
oh man, I didn't even think about them interacting again.
Yeah, that's gonna be it's gonna be very interesting. Yeah, I'm curious that it'll be interesting. I'm curious how they're gonna go about it because if they bring her back next season, or like they can have, I feel like they're gonna have to like pick and choose their moments with this season. So I'm very curious if it's gonna be more about like the more dramatically affected, like having Osiris or Crow and other these characters talking to her more directly, or is it going to be like I think Eris and I wonder if Eris and like Ikora are going to be bigger next season. That'd be cool. I'm definitely curious.
And the hidden, we might like it, like Fenchurch and stuff, like as characters that we're talking to. That could be really fun.
Yeah, definitely a lot of setup for an interesting season for sure. But I'm trying to keep cautiously optimistic because I feel like Deep had a really cool setup, and but again, like I said, was overall just fine and kind of
lukewarm.
Lukewarm, yes, definitely a good way to put it. And that's like some of it's not just directly the story's fault, but some of it's just like the lingering effects of like this kind of experiment they did with Lightfall that didn't necessarily like hit as well as I think a lot of people hoped, and maybe they themselves realizing maybe it was not as well done as they could have done.
They seem pretty excited about season 22 and 23. They seem to think that they're quite special, so I'm hopeful.
Yeah, for sure. So one last thing we had here from another. This also came out of this similar interview. This is from Shack News from Sam Chandler wrote this up, and basically in that same interview they talked about or hinted at the Vex, who have kind of been I would say a little kind of not super present in these kind of bigger conflicts recently. I mean, they were in Lightfall a little bit, but I feel like they've not really been touched on and like as integral. I feel like some of this larger combat going on, especially this season, and maybe they're hinting at a reason for that because maybe could be more have more things going on post Final Shape. So here's what they said in this interview. So basically, recently I had the pleasure of being in a Season of the Deep roundtable with a couple of developers from Bungie. Robert Brooks and Nico Stevens, both senior narrative designers, were part of a conversation. While the focus was mainly on Season of the Deep, they did shed some light on what's happening with the Vex. There are a couple parts to this one. One, literally keep playing Veil Containment. There's more Vex stuff to come. So there you go. Brooks said when questioned about why the Vex have faded into the background, becoming more of a force of nature rather than an enemy faction at the forefront of the story. Stevens echoed the sentiment, noting that the Vex have indeed taken a step back. There's a very good reason for that. If you are a collection of beings that can time travel and pop in on the timeline at any point, and you see two god behemoths boxing it out in front of you, and your goal is like, I want to be standing when these two things are done, you're probably going to take a step back and be like, I'm gonna let them take each other out and see what happens after that. So that's a pretty good point. It sounds as if the Vex hyper-advanced intelligence that they are see no reason to inject themselves into a situation as volatile as the showdown between the Traveler and the Witness. Stevens goes on to say that they're in a wait-and-see position. And then says, we're trying to bring the Vex in a little bit more of a personalized way right now, in a way that connects with the Witness story via the Soul Divisive. Stevens explained, these were the Vex that went all the way back to Destiny 1 with the Black Heart. They've kind of been expanded through piecemeal drops here and there, up into the Spire of the Watcher, which was a really big insight into the Soul Divisive and how closely aligned they actually are with the Witness. This is Robert Brooks to me has a soft spot for the Vex. And Vex is my first protection. They just they are just the most alien, the most fascinating, and the most unusual. So, and I think where was the main quote from Nico Stevens is I think once the final shape concludes, the Vex may be in a position to do some more stuff. Is how he would put it. So, again, I think this sets up a line of like, you know, the Vex I think are not going to maybe have a big part to play in these maybe some aspects of the Vex will have a part to play in the final shape stuff, but it seems like they maybe have a larger role post final shape, which like is a good. I think could be seen as a good and bad thing, right? Because I think like one, it's like okay, yeah, like the Vex are like a pretty big Destiny faction, and there still is a lot of mystery to them, right? I definitely agree with that, and like they are very interesting as this like weird robot goo race that is like, you know, transcends time and space and can kind of show up whenever they want and decide to like be a part of whatever they want. But at the same time, like, you know, the idea of like us going past final shape and being like, oh, the threat's here and it's the Vex, and it's just like, you know, we're just still fighting the same 4 different Vex archetype enemies that we've been fighting for, you know, some people even longer than I have in Destiny 1. And now in Destiny 2, like that's just kind of like, let's hope if they maybe, you know, do the Vex become a bigger role, maybe they find some more enemy units to bring into the phrase.
Some new red bars,
some new red bars, or some new bigger enemy types to see and fight against. So that would be my hope from the gameplay perspective, where like, you know, again, I think it is like the narrative stuff. I'm definitely into the idea where maybe that's like another big narrative arc, is like maybe not necessarily a big narrative arc, but maybe like, you know, maybe the expansion post final shape is like a Vex focused expansion, which I feel like there's never really actually been a Vex expansion, so to speak. It's like having like a bigger deep dive into like the Vex as like an enemy faction, and maybe actually having like a true like quote unquote Vex big bad, because I don't feel like we've ever really had that in Destiny. Is cool, but like, you know, I just hope that comes with like more interesting things to like shoot and fight in the actual video game, you know. But what do you think?
I think so. I like the Veil containment bit about the Vex, how like they found the ship on Neomuna, and then they like inserted themselves into time on Neptune so that they had always been there, so that way they can torture the people on Neomuna. It's really funny. Like it's a good like microcosm demonstration of like what their power actually lets them do.
Right.
It's basically what they did on Venus, which like when I was playing Destiny 1, I couldn't have told you that's what was going on Venus. But you know, and that being like the Veil Containment Group being the Ishtar Collective as well, which was what the place on Venus was. So that's cool, and like stuff like that is cool. So like potentially them like a Vex home planet that we potentially could visit in a future expansion could be really cool. Like a totally Vex world. Obviously we've been in the network and we've been to Vex places and had half Vex allies. So like there are plenty of other things to escalate. I'm with you though, of like, boy, if I just got to fight like harpies and wyverns again, that does sound like
it's going to take the wind out of the sails and a lot of that stuff. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But like, I mean, Destiny has needed like a new enemy race for like 5 years.
Yeah.
So that's nothing new. So I think, you know, assuming like the final shape delivers some level of at least new enemy units, like some kind of new enemy race, which I think a lot of people are hoping, especially if like, you know, it's either like ideally it is a new subclass, the final subclass, and the new enemy race, and if it's not both, it has to be at least one or the other. So because otherwise, like, you know, I'm gonna play that campaign and then uninstall Destiny from my PlayStation for a few weeks, maybe, just to maybe force myself to take a longer break, because I think I'll need it at that point.
Sure.
But yeah, I like the Vex, and I think there's plenty of potential, especially like if they start integrating with like another group of enemies and maybe we had like half Vex, half Cabal type deal, stuff like that. That could be really cool.
Sure.
But yeah, I would like to know too. Like, I feel like it was implied at some point that the darkness created the Vex potentially. It would be cool if like we find out that the Witness maybe made the Vex at some point, or that the progenitor race of the Witness, and that kind of set them on a path that the Witness wasn't necessarily fond of.
Right. Sure.
And they split at some point. But I don't know. There's a lot of questions. If like post Final Shape first expansion is just like, and we're gonna do Vex stuff, and it's just Vex stuff, like that doesn't sound super exciting at all.
Yeah.
But if it has some of that facet of like maybe like Vex integrating with an organic race or a different, I guess they are technically organic, but like differently, or like a Vex home planet, or the Vex origins, or time travel, like going
right, man.
Presumably we are going to like the origins of the universe within the Traveler in the Final Shape, so like using it as like a springboard to do more timey-wimey stuff could be really cool.
Yeah. Or like going to like, I think could be cool again, because that idea of like, I kind of hope like, to some degree with them going to, after the Final Shape is leaving behind a lot of what we know about Destiny, and that to me like feels like leaving our current solar system behind and going out to like different, like a completely different galaxy or universe with like new planets and new things and stuff like that. It'd be cool to like, I want that to a higher degree, but like I think that like bouncing off one of your ideas was going out into a different galaxy and going to a planet and finding out like the Vex like took over this planet in a way they like kind of took over Nessus, but have been at it like way longer, and like have like integrated themselves more directly. Like maybe they've like integrated themselves into some of the race, and like now they're like weird half Vex, half weird aliens, or maybe they're I think I've always heard like some at some point in lore like people talked about like the Vex we've only currently seen in the Destiny universe are like considered like ranked low, like the lowest ranks of Vex. Like they're seen as not like the actual like warrior Vex, or like the combatant Vex, rather than just like they're like little sentries, or like navigators, or like scouts or something like that. I feel like that came up at some point in the lore or whatever. Like that's a lot of all the Vex we've seen so far. So like seeing like proper Vex that are maybe like more like warriors, or like very different, and how they kind of move around the battlefield, or like you would have to fight them and stuff, could be very interesting, in a cool way to like set them up as like a bigger threat. But yeah, it's hard to say. Like I am there with you to an extent of like they'd really have to go out of their way to like make a Vex, like full on Vex expansion, be seen super interesting, if they, especially depending on how we're going to see these next seasons in the build up to Final Shape and what that's going to be. And there's like huge expectations on that, like I could see it kind of going either way, because I know there's like the expectation of like new subclass, new enemy race, and new this, and like I could see it going the other complete other direction of like they don't do any of that and save that as things to be like, here's like a new exciting thing to like build up to, and like here's we travel to a new galaxy, and because we traveled here we discovered a new power, and that's like a new subclass that we then can discover, or maybe learn it from like a new alien race that or something. That's always a thing they could venture with, but who knows? We'll have to just see.
I know we're not necessarily fully speculating, but if you want me to tell you like pie in the sky, like the thing that I think would make a big difference like in a post Light and Dark Saga is like a new class.
Sure.
Like
fourth class.
A fourth class. Like a Splicer class where you get to play as a Fallen.
Yeah, that's definitely always been assumed. Like I've definitely always seen that idea thrown around as like, yeah, like play as a Fallen, or like a Fallen has like light powers, or like are the
Cabal
powers
at this point.
Yeah,
yeah. That's like that is, and the complications with that is like they're not going to have access to all the subclasses for sure, stuff like that, because like how are you going to have a Splicer class play through Lightfall and get Strand, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they have Strand, but it's just like you don't have to do all that to get that or whatever.
Right.
But
Sure.
I would assume it would just be kind of like a reset, that whatever new class would just have like Void, Arc, and Solar, and then go from there. Or maybe 3 Darkness subclasses.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Like, I think, yeah, like at the end of the day, I think we're on track of just like, I think coming out of, depending on how Final Shape goes, we'll have to, that's like definitely going to be a big moment to see like where Destiny's left at when after the aftermath of that. But like, they have to have like a big thing. I think they have to have like a really big
things,
big pitch to like see what's past Destiny 2, and like even if that is like, you know, if they have to
sunsetting everything,
yeah, if they have to like do like a bigger like content reset, I don't know, or if it's like big content reset like that, or if it's like hey, we have to take like an extended period, like a much longer period of time, and like maybe that like leaves, you know, Destiny 2 at a lower point, because maybe they go like, hey, we're not going to do like 4 whole seasons. Maybe we'll just go back to doing like 2 really big seasons, and like that we're going to spread stuff out a little bit longer, so that way we can, you know, pull more resources to work on like a bigger update to the game, or, you know, who knows, you know, again, it's, you know, a lot of expectations are going into that August showcase right now for me, and I think just a lot of people, just because it's like we want to know what's going to happen to this game and the future of it beyond this last thing, because like clearly, especially now more than ever, because like, you know, we got like probably like I feel like the most details of that stuff from a couple of these interviews of talking about like, yeah, we're going to be setting up story stuff beyond this into you know, in the next couple seasons, and obviously the Final Shape more than all. Like, you know, we have the plans already. Like, we already have these ideas and things of where it's going to go, and like, you know, we just have to wait and see now if they're compelling.
Yes, and I hope they are. I mean, there's a lot. That's the nice thing about Destiny, is like there's so much stuff. You know, we've got the 9, we've got the Vex. You know, and I know the 9 aren't going to get resolved by the end of the Final Shape. Like, that's
pretty much
a great like big bad, or at least like antagonist to like dog us for a while.
Some crazy benevolent universal force for sure. Yeah, just like the Vex are kind of that to an extent, but they have like time. They can like travel through time and do all kinds of crazy shit. Like, what does that mean? Yeah.
All they got to do. I'm not saying it has to be the best final raid boss ever, but the Witness has got to be a good one.
Yeah, the Witness has to be like a
epic. The beat's got to shred.
A wild raid boss, and just
it's got to be weird.
Not just boss, but like a raid period. Like they have to like they got to be
the magnum opus. You know,
they got to know that like that raid has to fucking be a 10 out of 10. And to be completely fair, like I feel like even if it is a 10 out of 10, I think just because of the natural effect of like people having played Destiny for so long, a lot of people are still just gonna be like, oh, that was fucking awesome, but I'm done.
Yeah, and that's okay. You know?
Yeah.
If I feel good going out at the end of that raid and be like, we did it, and it was like an epic fight, and the music was crazy, and the visual and spectacle was crazy, and the mechanics were cool. Like, I'll be, you know, I'll sleep well that night. I'll be satisfied with my time with Destiny. And no matter what comes after that point, I won't care.
Sure. Yeah. But yeah, I think you can tell from our conversations here with like where I think we're just in we're in a waiting period and a period of hopefulness as we wait to see what's next for this game and like the kind of the bigger beat it's about to get into. And we're definitely gonna keep talking about it. You know, I think we'll probably hold off from doing another episode here of Helm to Tower podcast. Probably wait till like maybe Solstice drops and see what's going on with that. Because it's not that far off. I think it's only like a week, or I think it's only like 2 weeks away from when we'll
it's like
do this.
21st or whatever.
Yeah, 21st or like I think it's 18th. I don't know when the 18th just popped into my head. I think it's in a couple.
We
weeks.
talked about it. We had this exact conversation last episode.
We definitely did.
Listen to the last episode because we do know.
Yeah, we knew about it back then. So yeah, if you listen to the episode, you already know too. So it's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll probably be back once Solstice drops and we played a little bit of that, and like I'm sure maybe we'll get some maybe other like weekly blog because by that point it'll be mid July. We'll be slowly getting into August, and I'm sure they're gonna start giving us some more maybe next season deep details and patch notes and other things that are kind of because we know some cool stuff's coming next season already. Like we know like those patch note changes. We're getting the exotic mission like rotator, right? Like that's gonna be next season.
Which probably means like crafted Hawkmoon and Dead Man's Tale in some fashion.
Potentially, yeah, that would make sense for sure. So yeah, there's definitely some. I think there'll be some cool stuff next season, and then obviously the end of August showcase. So I think they'll start giving, not a bunch of maybe some teases to that closer to it, but I don't think they're gonna obviously give us a bunch of information on what they're gonna show there. Obviously, until they show it. But it'll probably still be like, seasonal, like, here's some teases, seasons, we're getting some new strand aspects. They might show us some strand aspects or something, before then. So, we'll still be, topping in here and there with some episodes as we get to that. But for now, thanks everybody, for hanging out with us, ramble on about Destiny 2. A video game.
Everyone's favorite video game. No one dislikes.
No one dislikes it. No one thinks it's dying or trying to put it out the pasture or complaining about things that have been in the game for years at this point.
Definitely not.
We're just trying we're just trying to have a good time. I guess sometimes and not.
And sometimes the best time you're having is not playing Destiny.
Yep. That has been
take a break.
Has been not bad at all. Not playing the game. I'll tell you what. Thanks everybody for hanging out with us, watching here on YouTube.com/HelmTower. Feel free to subscribe to us. If you haven't already, or just leave a comment and just let us know what you're thinking about as for Destiny and stuff. Feel free to let us know what you're thinking.
What are you playing when you're not playing Destiny?
Yeah. Also feel free to do that. We have another channel, youtube.com/Irrational Passions. You can find us there. We talk about non-Destiny stuff, and you can check it out there. We'll have some thoughts on Final Fantasy 16 soon and some other games coming out that we're gonna be checking out for videos and whatnot. So feel free to stop by there if you'd like.
If you would like to follow me, you can follow me at Auri means win.
The new handle.
AURI.
Excellent. Yeah, I can throw that in the description and stuff as well. You can follow us on Twitter I'm at Mike IP _ as well. You can follow us on Twitter to see us talking about whatever the hell we're going to talk about. We can instead of talking about Destiny dying, we can talk about Twitter. You can see us talk about Twitter dying on Twitter instead.
Follow us on Threads.
Oh no,
follow me on Blue Sky. Check me out on Hive. Where my bees at?
Check me out on Pornhub.com and no. Anyway, we're
OnlyFans.com.
Oh, look. We gotta do something out here. Destiny's dying, you know what I mean? God. So we're off. All right, it's completely off the rails at the end of it, but that was fun. But yeah, thanks everybody. Yeah, we're here on YouTube. Check us out. We're on podcast services if you're listening. Thank you. As always, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.